Why did I have to hide my own report card in my sock drawer for 8 years just to feel safe in my own house? My name's Dana. My adopted sister Reese cracked a ceramic award over my collarbone the day I made honor roll, screaming that I was rubbing her nose in it. 3 years later, she slipped crushed sleeping pills into my protein shake the week I got my nursing school acceptance. And when I told my mother, she said I was provoking Reese by flaunting things she'd never had. I stayed quiet for 8 years. This past Thanksgiving, my mother stood in my driveway screaming that I'd shattered Reese all over again, just for existing somewhere Reese couldn't reach me. Here's the thing about my family. Love was never a verb. It was a hostage situation. We took Reese in from foster care when she was 14 and I was 15. I wanted a sister so badly, so when I placed second in the state debate finals, she was the first person I ran to tell. She smiled, congratulated me, then 5 minutes later, accidentally, knocked my trophy off the shelf so hard it cracked my collarbone. My mother's response wasn't to check if I was bleeding. It was to kneel by Reese, sobbing on the kitchen floor, and whisper that this was hard for her, that I needed to be more sensitive going forward. That sentence became the operating manual for the next 8 years of my life. For a while, I believed it was my job to shrink. I stopped putting certificates on the fridge, stopped mentioning grades at dinner, got good at editing myself into a daughter who wouldn't set Reese off. It worked mostly until the acceptance letter from a top nursing program showed up last spring. I read it 3 times in the driveway, not trusting my own eyes. For a few hours, I was just a girl who'd gotten in somewhere incredible, not a landmine. Then my mother came home, saw the letter on the counter, and her face did the thing. The smile that doesn't reach the eyes, the one that means a negotiation is coming. "This is huge," she said. "We need to figure out logistics." I thought she meant tuition. She meant Reese. Reese needed a soft landing near people she trusted, couldn't be expected to watch me leave and thrive without her. My mother offered to help fund a 2-bedroom for us together, as if my acceptance letter had 2 names on it. When I mentioned Reese had dumped correction fluid over my study notes the week before, my mother waved it off. "She hasn't had an episode in months," she said, like she was discussing weather, not vandalism. "If you cared about your sister's healing, you'd help her." The story I got fed my whole childhood was that Reese had been the scapegoat in her old foster placement. No birthday cake while the biological kid got a party, hand-me-downs while the other girl got new sneakers. "You don't get nice things" had apparently been said to her so often it became scripture. I understood that. But somewhere along the way, Reese started running that exact script on me, and I was expected to just absorb it. Generation 2 of the same curse. What I learned to read, the way sailors read weather, was Reese's stillness. 10 minutes of unbroken staring meant something was about to break. 15 meant everything was... So I hid things, never celebrated where she could see. But nursing school isn't something you tuck into a drawer. It's 4 years. Loud and public by nature. The poisoning happened when I was 18, right after Reese found my acceptance letters stuffed behind my mattress. I didn't notice until I was 3 bites into dinner and caught a bitterness. A faint white residue on the rice. Rodenticide. From under the sink. "What is wrong with you?" I shouted, and Reese just laughed while my mother lectured me, not her, about humility. That was the night I understood my mother wasn't oblivious to the pattern. She was the architect of it. I told her Reese wasn't welcome at my dorm, offered video calls and holidays instead, even offered to find Reese a trauma specialist near home. My mother threatened to cut off tuition. I said fine, I'd take loans. What followed were 2 ugly months. Relatives calling me an abandoner. My mother once bringing Reese to the pharmacy where I worked to practice separation. Reese staring at my uniform for 10 minutes before sweeping an entire display onto the floor, screaming the familiar line. My manager quietly asked them not to return. The week before my white coat ceremony, my aunt warned me my mother had already bought 2 plane tickets. You can't leave Reese out of a family milestone. I knew what that meant. And for the first time in 8 years, I didn't fold. So I planned. I posted online that the ceremony had moved buildings. A total fabrication. I briefed campus security ahead of time. A guard named Marcus agreed to watch for anyone matching descriptions I gave him. My roommate Jade agreed to be my lookout. That morning, I dressed with the bathroom door locked and a chair wedged under the handle. Not rational, maybe, but try relaxing around someone who's poisoned your food. Jade drove because my car was recognizable. My phone filled with texts. "Where are you? Reese is so excited for you." Excited the same way she'd been excited to shred my SAT scores 2 years earlier. We parked 2 lots over and slipped in through a side entrance. Marcus giving a thumbs up. No sign of them yet. In the prep room, a classmate named Theo asked if I was okay. I said I was just nervous and didn't mention that my sister might show up to detonate the whole event. About 30 minutes out, my phone exploded with photos. My mother and Reese standing baffled outside the wrong building, exactly where I'd posted. Reese was dressed like she was headed to prom. I switched my phone off. Jade texted one word from the lobby. Clear. Lined up alphabetically, I walked into a packed auditorium and scanned every row. Nothing. Then, Near the back, I spotted my mother, red-faced, arguing with security because the ceremony was ticketed and she hadn't realized. Marcus held the line. When they called my name, I crossed the stage, took my coat, smiled for the photo, and for the first time in 8 years felt an achievement land without a flicker of dread. Afterward, Jade told me my mother and Reese had arrived right as I accepted my coat. Reese had tried to rush the stage and been blocked by the same security who'd turned my mother away. My mother made a scene loud enough that other families stared. Then they left before campus police showed up. My phone held 40+ missed calls and one final text. Come home. We need to discuss your behavior. My behavior, not the years of sabotage. Mine, I didn't go home. I went to Theo's party and wore the coat all night, posting every photo, refusing to dim anything to keep the peace. I woke to a lecture from my father, who usually stayed neutral, clearly relaying my mother's script word for word. Still, I knew I'd eventually need to go back for my things. Jade came with me for safety in numbers. The house looked ordinary, curtains drawn, both cars in the driveway. My father tried to open with a lecture in the kitchen. I cut him off and said I was there to pack. Upstairs, Jade helped me box the essentials. Laptop, documents, nothing Reese could destroy. We were nearly done when the front door slammed and fast footsteps hit the stairs. Reese appeared in my doorway, staring at my half-empty room, face totally blank, worse than anger. I started counting seconds out of habit, bracing for the explosion. It never came. Around 3 minutes, her hands started shaking. And then, for the first time ever, she just turned and walked away, shutting her door softly. My mother arrived at the top of the stairs, still in her book club outfit, face twisted. She accused me of traumatizing Reese all over again, grabbed my arm hard enough to leave marks, called me selfish, listed every sacrifice she'd made. I pulled free and kept moving. My father stayed frozen at the table. Outside, my mother delivered her closing line on the lawn. If you leave now, don't bother coming back for Thanksgiving. I got in the car anyway. Pulling out, I caught Reese in her window, just watching, which unsettled me more than any scream ever had. Jade let me crash on her pullout for a few days while I hunted apartments and did grim math on loans. My mother's text turned from anger to something colder. Reese isn't eating. Reese cried all night. Reese asks why you hate her. I stopped reading them. Then my father started texting, worried this time. Reese had gone quiet in a way that felt different, locked in her room for days. I almost caved. Jade reminded me Reese was 23 with 2 capable parents in the house. She was right, even if the guilt lingered. I found a studio near campus on day 4, signed the lease with a landlord who cared about 0 of my family drama. Furnishing it was thrift store finds and dollar store dishes. Nothing precious, nothing that would sting if history repeated. A week in, my father showed up unannounced, having tracked me through a photo Jade had tagged online. He looked wrecked, and for the first time told me the parts of Reese's early placement my mother had buried. Attempted runaways, threats of self-harm, pleas to go back into the system. A therapist had warned early on that Reese might latch onto me and treat my success as a threat. My mother had promised to manage it and instead chose Reese every time, and my father had let her. He actually apologized. Then he told me why he'd really come. Reese had found my apartment and had been parked outside for hours. Sure enough, her car sat across the street, motionless. My father wanted me to talk to her, insisted something felt different. I said no. He left, tried her window once more, got waved off, drove away. Reese stayed. For 3 days, she sat out there, same spot, same stillness, occasionally leaving only for the corner store. I didn't call the police. Sitting in a parked car isn't a crime. I mostly just stopped sleeping. On the 4th day, exhausted, I walked out and knocked on her window. Her eyes were red-rimmed. Reese never cried in front of people. I know what I did to you, she said. Not sorry, just an acknowledgement. She handed me a battered notebook through the window. I've been writing everything down. My therapist thinks it helps. She told me she'd been in real therapy twice a week since I left. New medication. Genuine effort. Then she told me her side of the foster story. Loved for 3 years until a biological daughter arrived and the ground shifted under her. Then the sentence that cracked something open. Watching you get that trophy. Happy and proud. I couldn't stand it. Because if you deserved good things, maybe that meant they were right about me. We sat on the curb together. She told me our mother was rallying relatives for a Thanksgiving intervention. But for the first time, Reese had refused to help, had blocked our mother's number, had come to warn me instead. She showed me a group chat I'd been quietly removed from, relatives calling me ungrateful, calling her brainwashed for defending me. I opened the notebook that night. Pages of memory, the trophy, the torn letters, the poisoned dinner, but also entries I hadn't expected, moments she'd wanted to hurt me and stopped herself. The most recent read, Dana deserves everything good. I always knew that. I just couldn't feel it. The meds help. The distance helps most. I told her I needed time. She warned me our mother had been calling my school and job claiming a family emergency, trying to find my location. and that Reese had been quietly sabotaging those efforts, deleting messages, feeding her wrong information. My former tormentor had become my early warning system. The following weeks were quiet. I buried myself in exams. Then Thanksgiving arrived and the group chat lit up. Everyone confirming attendance, everyone certain they could talk sense into me. My mother texted directly, "Saccharine, no pressure, just family." I knew that tone. I said I had to work. She'd already checked with my manager and pivoted straight to threats. If I didn't come, she'd bring the whole family to my apartment instead. I called Reese in a panic. "She's serious," Reese confirmed. "Aunt Carol's bringing her van, showing up around noon." I asked why she was helping me now. "Because I spent 8 years taking things from you," she said. "It's time I gave something back." We built a loose plan. She'd play the dutiful daughter, keep everyone occupied, buy me a day to vanish. I left before sunrise and spent Thanksgiving with Jade's family, who folded me in without question. I kept my phone off all day. That night, over 50 missed calls and one from Reese. They came. "You weren't there, they left." "Mom's already planning the next move. Be careful," she was right. Within days, my academic advisor got a call from someone claiming to be me, requesting an emergency withdrawal. My landlord got an anonymous complaint. My manager fielded fake sick call-outs in my name. I started documenting everything, and Reese kept feeding me intel. Our mother researching wellness checks, floating the idea of having me declared incompetent. Then came handwritten letters from a dozen relatives, all the same tune except one from my aunt hid a sticky note in Reese's handwriting. "Stay strong. You're doing the right thing. I'm proud of you." First time in 8 years she'd said that about anything I'd done. I changed my number, rented a P.O. box, started varying where I parked. 2 quiet weeks lulled me into thinking it was over. It wasn't. It was a reload. The nuclear option arrived on a Tuesday. My mother, father, an aunt, and 2 cousins outside my nursing building with poster board signs. "Family abandonment is abuse. Reese needs her sister." I ducked into a side entrance, texted Jade for a hoodie, missed a lecture sneaking out the back. Security eventually cleared them, but the damage to my anonymity on campus was done. That night, Reese warned me our mother meant to make this daily until I broke. I couldn't survive another public spectacle wrecking a career I hadn't even started. So I did the one thing I swore I'd never do. Called my mother directly and asked to meet. Just us at a coffee shop. She showed up with backup. My father, the same aunt. Reese slipped in behind them, caught my eye, mouthed "I tried," and sat 2 tables away, still quietly guarding me. My mother opened with the usual barrage. I let her run out of steam, then pulled up screenshots Reese had sent, the plan to contact my school, the strategy sessions about breaking me down. Her face went scarlet. I kept going. The trophy, the poison, years of being told to shrink so Reese could take up all the air in the room. Then I said the line that finally silenced her. "I got into nursing school in spite of you, not because of you. Every achievement you made me hide is the reason I'm sitting here now." My mother started crying. Real tears. She admitted she'd thought keeping us together would fix everything, that she'd failed both of us. The first honest sentence I'd heard from her in a decade. Reese stood, walked over, told our mother flatly to stop, that she'd tortured me enough, that she was healing on her own terms, and didn't need me sacrificed for it anymore. When my aunt tried one last guilt play, Reese asked if she'd forgive someone who'd poisoned her dinner. Nobody answered. I laid out my terms. No more public scenes, no more calls to my school or job, no more ambush letters. I might consider Christmas if boundaries held, otherwise I had a lawyer on standby. My mother nodded, defeated. My father finally spoke, said he was proud of me, that he should have protected me years earlier, asked if we could text sometimes. I said maybe. Outside, Reese handed me an envelope of cash, savings from her nursery job, to cover shifts I'd lost to our mother's chaos. I tried to refuse. She insisted. She told me she was moving into a supported housing program for adults working through trauma, somewhere with intensive therapy, somewhere she couldn't hurt anyone else, somewhere our mother couldn't use her as leverage again. She'd already put down a deposit. We stood there a moment, 8 years of wreckage between us and something new too. Not quite peace, but not war either. She said she hoped I'd be an incredible nurse, that she'd be watching from a distance, proud. Then she went back inside. I haven't seen her in person since. Months passed quietly. My mother, to her credit, kept her word. Occasional careful texts from my father about the weather, the dog. I heard Reese was thriving in the program. Therapy 3 times a week, medication that worked, art classes, a real job at a plant nursery. Growing things, she told him, taught her the opposite of what she used to know how to do. I spent Christmas with Jade's family again. A card came from my mother. "Thinking of you, love, Mom." No strings attached for once. I didn't respond, but I kept it in a drawer, filed under evidence that people occasionally do change. Spring semester, I put everything into my coursework and came out on top of every class. I posted my white coat photo publicly, no editing, no hiding. On my birthday, an unknown number texted, "Happy birthday. You deserve all good things. I knew exactly who it was. I didn't reply, but I didn't delete it either. A year out from the night I first packed those boxes, I'm still standing, still top of my class, still in my tiny apartment that's entirely mine. No shattered trophies, no tampered food, no one keeping score of what I'm allowed to want. Just a life I built by refusing to keep making myself smaller so someone else's pain had room to breathe. And for the first time in a very long time, that feels like enough.